This is Hannibal here with a daily wrestling and fighting news update. The number one trend on Google yesterday was the Jake Paul versus Mike Perry boxing match. Did 1 million Google searches. 17,000 people came to watch Jake Paul get a TKO over Mike Perry in Tampa, Florida. Perry is, of course, a bare knuckle fighter. I'll be honest, I don't really follow bare knuckle fighting other than the highlights you see sometimes. So I don't know much about Mike Perry. I know Jake Paul, obviously, is a YouTuber. He had the advantage. He's been training more in boxing, but he could have lost. So congratulations to him on his win. Conor McGregor, who's part owner of this bare knuckle fighting championship that Perry is involved with, was sending out a bunch of back and forth early morning tweets with Perry saying he was fired and so forth for competing in the boxing. Honestly, I never heard Mike Perry's name before this boxing match, so whether it gets heat with him in bare knuckle or not, it's built his name a little bit, and he made it to the 6th round before the technical knockout. The only other thing in combat sports to trend this weekend, 500,000 Google searches, was Hulk Hogan, Dana White, and Linda McMahon's appearance at the Republican National Convention a couple days ago, where many people are saying it's the best wrestling promo of the year, the promo that Hulk Hogan gave. And don't forget, Kid Rock, another WWE Hall of Famer, was also present at that convention. The TNA pay-per-view last night did not trend, but it was a positive thing overall for TNA. According to the Wrestling Observer, there's about 3,500 in attendance at the Verdun Auditorium. Now, keep in mind that Jacques Rougeau was selling out the Verdun Auditorium for years when he was running his company there. And even before that, it would sell out in the 80s. But Verdun is it's part of Montreal, but it's more of the lower income area. It's like a real wrestling type area. It's a good place to hold wrestling. PCO's first match back. Apparently there's people that competed in the Battle Royal before the show that had to sell a certain amount of tickets to get in the Battle Royal. And honestly, who cares? Do whatever you have to do to get people in there because it looked great. Apparently, the biggest pops of the night were PCO, of course, who had personally sold a lot of tickets and had not wrestled in Montreal since before Ring of Honor, where at one point he was Ring of Honor world champion. And actually, it's funny enough, even though the last few years of Ring of Honor, when PCO was world champion, were not very popular, under the Tony Khan Ring of Honor, the brand seems to have gotten less popular, even though it has more funding behind it now, strangely enough. And Kerry Silkin, one of the former owners of Ring of Honor, also mentioned that recently on a podcast. The second guy that got the second most cheers was Mike Bailey, of course. Another guy that's wrestled for Great North Wrestling along with PCO. I've wrestled PCO quite a lot myself. Very tough guy. And the third most was this Joe Henry, who's he's a good singer. And he has good charisma. I think he's got a good future. I think he should have won the title. They had Dolph Ziggler win it for some bizarre reason, which I don't see that much of a buzz about Dolph Ziggler. And Joe Henry has so much buzz, so I'm surprised they didn't give him the title. Earl Hebner, who made a cameo, supposedly got the most boos. Here's an interesting story from the TNA shows I promoted in 2007. Earl Hebner was the referee for those. He actually refereed me versus Abyss in one of the shows. I got free drinks at a bar after one of the nights for everybody. And the manager told me the next day, because I actually worked at this bar as a bouncer, not the next day, but my next shift. I was so tired by that day, I didn't even go. I had my girlfriend from Puerto Rico in town helping me, and I'd much rather at that time be home having fun with her than at a bar. But anyways, the guy that was recognized the most at that time, even though the whole TNA crew was there and there were some famous people, was Earl Hebner. And I guess people were like marking out for him the most. So he's still very well remembered. AEW got rid of Elton John Saturday night. Is all right for fighting for the Collision show. I guess it costs a lot of money to license that, to use it for Collision, and it's not like Collision has been a big hit of a show. I think there's about 700 fans. TNA actually outdrew them last night, and I watched both. By the way, Sky Blue, so there's pictures of her in a cast today. She broke her leg on Collision last night, a botched dive. I'm not hating on it at all. I wish them the best, but it's interesting that the TNA outdrew them last night. You'd think that since they were going head to head with a TNA event and TNA has some buzz on it, they would have tried to like get more people talking about that episode of Collision, because I think way more people were talking about TNA. And I don't, maybe I'm wrong. I didn't see anything of the Von Erichs on the Collision for the first show of the Arlington, Texas series, the residency. I would have thought they would have started off, get the Von Erichs in there right away. But for whatever reason, they didn't. And yeah, that's about it for the news. The TKO Chung Lee lawsuit, where the judge had previously said he was going to decide whether to accept the $335 million settlement offer by TKO to the Chung Lee group or not. He was supposed to decide by Friday, but he didn't. The Chris Adams documentary, I'm about to stream it right after I'm done this on here. Mickey Grant is a good friend of mine, and he gave me permission to stream it. He's the producer and director of the documentary, and he is also the former world-class pro wrestling TV show producer. So I'm going to stream that again now. I haven't seen it for a while. It, from what I recall of it, when I watched it a few years ago, there's one girl that used to date him or something that's completely messed up in this documentary. And they interview Boo Ray, the guy that killed Chris Adams, in it as well. By the way, I did get confirmation that Ken Patera, they just did the Chris Adams Dark Side of the Ring. As far as the Billy Jack Haynes Vice documentary, I know Billy Jack's going to be in it. They've talked to Jeannie Clark about it. Chris Adams' ex-wife, also Billy Jack's ex-wife. Ken Patera. It's funny. I actually was the wrestler in the most communication with him before the incident, including him texting me and trying to call me an hour before the incident, but they haven't contacted me about being part of that documentary yet, which is strange because I'm the one that was documenting his career the most towards the end, and I stay in contact with him